Hello everyone and welcome on board the Sunset Safari here on Djuma Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've got off to a great start. Karula, a female leopard, is on site. She's been here for about 72 hours feeding on an impala kill which she has hoisted up in a tree not too far away. There's still probably about 10 or 15% of that kill remaining, and hopefully later on this evening we'll get to see her moving along this vegetation and then climbing up the tree to feed on the impala remains. We've got VM on camera. My name's Scott and this is a live safari. We've also got another visitor, a National Geographic guest who is on the back of our vehicle with us, Nick. So one more passenger than normal, and that's always exciting to have somebody behind the scenes with us on this adventure. Of course, great to have you with us. It's about 24 degrees Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit, cool afternoon, a little bit windy, there's a slight breeze, but it's not going to play a big impact on the safari. Let's take a closer look at Karula. Now, for those of you who were not with us on the Sunset Safari, you will not realize that it was actually caught short due to some rain that we experienced this morning. And I don't think we are going to get any rain this afternoon. It's looking promising for a dry safari, although this area does desperately need rain. So that's what happened this morning, but at least our safari should be able to continue the full 3 hours without any obstructions. James has also headed out on the other vehicle, and he's headed up into the northern and eastern reaches of Djuma to a waterhole up there. He said he had a lucky feeling in his stomach that there may be something going on over there. There was 5 male lions there yesterday afternoon, and we're not too sure where they went. Brent did go and have a quick look for them this morning, but with all this bad weather we raced for shelter and we weren't sure where they have actually ended up. They could still be on Djuma, and hopefully that is the case. Just want to maybe reposition slightly, and I would like to possibly leave her now because she's fast asleep, and I'd rather spend some time with her a little bit later on when she's more active. And we did see a big herd of elephants moving not too far away from us, so I'll be able to head straight to those. And they were on the move. And it really has been wonderful. There's a lot of elephants around at the moment. And if you are joining for the first time, it's important that you realize that we are incredibly fortunate to be starting with this leopard. It's not at all easy to find them, and don't be fooled by the fact that we are leaving it in a few minutes. It's not that we are not overjoyed by the fact that this animal is around and right in front of us, but there are so many things going on here, and we have to kind of capitalize on whatever Mother Nature is offering at the time. And at the moment, a sleepy leopard versus a big herd of elephants. I think the elephants are going to win, and that way we can come back here a little bit later. Again, there is a kill in a tree. Just to give you an idea of how far away it is, I'll reposition the vehicle ever so slightly, and that way you'll be able to see the tree that she's actually got this impala kill hoisted in. Like I say, she's been on it for about 72 hours. It was an adult female impala that she killed, and it's been doing a great job keeping her full-bellied. She's done a great job in keeping that kill to herself, because had she have not been able to hoist it up into the tree that I'm about to show you, hyena in all likelihood would have stolen it from her. They won't put up a fight against hyena, and a few hyena have already come onto the scene here, but they haven't been able to do anything because they cannot climb, and like I said, her food is nestled safely up in the branches of the tree that I'm about to show you now. You can't see it too clearly, but I just want to give you an idea of how far away it is. It's about 10 o'clock. You can just see the trunk of it through a bit of a window. And it's up in there that she has the kill. I guess she likes this spot and she's moved into this area because it's shady. There's a very big marula tree, or a couple of them here, and there's also a termite mound that you may have seen. as VM zoomed into that area, or as he zooms out, you'll see a big termite mound, and she's been enjoying lazing about on top of there. There's a good vantage point. Okay, well, one thing before I do send you across to James for an update on how his adventure is coming along, I must remind you that this is a live safari, and if it is your first time, welcome on board, and please send us your thoughts, comments, questions to #SafariLive on Twitter, or an email to questions@WildEarth.tv. I'm going to go and have a look for this herd of elephants, and enjoy James and his updates.
Well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to Djuma, the recalcitrant vehicle on which Brian Joubert, inimitable cameraman, and I, James Henry, find ourselves for what is a beautiful afternoon here in the wilds of the Western Kruger National Park. We're sitting with a herd of impala, and we're sitting with them because, of course, we're heading towards birthing time, and this is an extremely exciting time of the year. We've had some good rain in the last few days, and I think that these impala are about to pop. There were reports of one baby impala down around Cheetah Plains, so that might be the first one. So every single impala herd that we go past now, we're going to check and see if we can't find a tiny little lamb lying in the grass and perhaps starting to suckle. Remember, impala drop their lambs within about probably 2 weeks of each other. All of them will have birthed their lambs, and they'll get up almost immediately. And what I just want to do is have a listen. There are a few birds calling, but there's also the very slight kind of bleating noise that sounds a little bit like a baby impala. There, you hear that? You get that? It's just off to the front and left of your screen, everyone. It's just behind us in there. This will be tremendously exciting. Now, I'm not going to attempt to try and go in there, because if it is a baby impala, of course, it's going to be very nervous. And I'm not sure if you're hearing the sound. I don't think you are. It's very, very soft. It's just a little gentle kind of meh in amongst the ringneck doves going ploop, 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 ploop. There's a black cuckoo also calling. I'm going to sneak forward. The impala on the right hand side are definitely looking towards that way. So let's have a quick look forward. While I do that, just remember, we are live, of course, and you are welcome and encouraged indeed to ask us questions. #SafariLive if you're tweeting like that black cuckoo. Alternatively, questions@WildEarth.tv on the email. And please remember to tell us where you're from. It really is always nice to hear where our different viewers are from in the world. Astonishing that we can take you on a game drive from here, no matter where you happen to find yourself with an internet connection. Right, so we're just going to stop right here and keep listening and peeling our eyes on the bush in there for that little bleat of a young baby impala lamb. I can't hear it anymore. Now what they do is when they give birth, they will get into the thick grass and give birth, and I mean, just like with horses and with so many other herbivore species, the lamb will stand up almost immediately, but it will be for about 20 minutes to half an hour quite wobbly on its feet, and at that time it will be away from the herd. So this little herd that's off to the right hand side, let's assume that there is actually a baby just born in there. That herd will move away for the next sort of half an hour or so, and then the mother will take her youngster to join the herd immediately. And from less than an hour after birth, that tiny little lamb will be able to keep up with the herd. That is, of course, very different from a human being, which of course is a mewling and fairly useless thing until it is about, well, in these days, until it's about 30. Right, I don't think there is a baby impala around here. Well, there might be, but I can't, there's definitely no way I'm going to walk in there and look, or drive in there. It's quite thick. So we'll go forward and we'll observe every single impala herd we go past, and attempt not to confuse any steenbok. I've done that before with baby impala. That's just very embarrassing. Right, on we go. It's a very afternoon. It's probably sitting at around 23 or 20, no, probably more, 26 degrees Celsius, which is roughly, if I'm not mistaken, about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a wild guess, but I know that 28 is 82, so I'm going to guess that 26 is around about 78. It's quite cloudy, as you can see, which is actually quite pleasant at this time of the year. And we had a bit of rain. Obviously we had big rain this morning, and then little bits and pieces of spitters and spatters throughout the course of the day, and it's turned into a rather spectacular afternoon. It's quite muggy as the sun comes out. Obviously there's lots of water evaporating off the ground, and it does make things a little bit muggy at the moment, but it's actually quite a nice feeling. We had also an exceptional experience yesterday, and I don't know if you're following Scott Dyson on Facebook, you should be. Or on Instagram, he's posted a video of a termite emergence that took place. So go and have a look there if you can, and we will try and find you some of those. After the rains, good rains, we've had nice heat, and the termites will now start to fly. And that's the reproductives that are going off to try and create new termite colonies. And it's just the most, I find it a tremendously special time of the year. People often stare at me very strangely when I say, look how, I mean, I get quite emotional about the fact that there are termites emerging from the ground and going flying off. 99% of them probably won't make it to having their own colonies. The rest will be eaten by skinks and frogs and birds and humans and all sorts of other things. So we'll try and find you a termite emergence. Ooh, I'm not hearing it. I'm not hearing anything. Stand by. Right? Now I see. Let's head across to Scott. I think he's got something exciting to show you, and I'll see you just now.
So we've just caught up with this herd of elephants. They've finished drinking at the Djuma waterhole. I'm fairly certain some of you are tuned into both this safari and the live feed from the waterhole, so you would have seen them there. A beautiful herd, all different shapes and sizes, and I actually quite enjoy this kind of a view. A large herd in a big open clearing, all heading off into the distance, and we are so spoiled with all the different views we do get of the animals out here on a daily basis. This herd, I actually recognize the female right in the front, kind of on the left. She's a big female. Her tusk is kind of upward turned, almost like a warthog, which is quite abnormal. So she's easy to distinguish from other elephants. Let's try and get ahead of them. There is a chance we may be able to. What have they found there? Something's got their attention on the ground. Possibly some kind of a smell. I'm fairly certain that's what it was that got them going. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got Nick on our vehicle, and now Peter's trying to get a hold of me. Peter Pretorius, another presenter who some of you may well know, and he's just going to coordinate when to pick Nick up and take him out on safari. They have the pleasure of being driven around by Aubrey. I don't think we are going to be able to manage to loop ahead of these elephants, but at least we are a little bit closer to them. We're moving very close to the front of the Voyatela Lodge. I wonder if we can get the female with that upturned tusk there. She's tilting her head from side to side. We should be able to get a few intermittent views. Sadly, I do not have a monitor this afternoon, which means I have got no idea of what exactly VM is filming, which basically makes me feel blind.
she gone out of frame yet? Or in the bushes?
Yeah, she's the one.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's the difficulties I'm facing, but hopefully the other camera that is usually used for this vehicle will be mended and fixed. Took a bit of a tumble the other day, and we'll therefore get this little pea shooter, which has got an incredible zoom, but it's a tiny little camera, off the vehicle, and then I will have a monitor that actually works, which will be great. Okay. What we probably can do, because it is such a nice big herd, we can try and loop ahead of them, but it is going to take a few minutes, and I think we're going to drop Nick off now, get him onto Peter's vehicle. They're just up ahead of us. And then once we've dropped off Nick, we'll then continue on looping ahead to try and find these elephants. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Toodle-doo.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, Brent.
Hello, Scottish.
Hello, Mr. William. Hello, Molly. Have a wonderful afternoon. Is Nick jumping off now, Peter?
No, let's stick with you a little bit more. So,
Okay. Cool. Clearest plans have been made, hence the confusion there. Not an issue though. Okay, so we're going to send you across to James while we try and get ahead of these elephants, and hopefully it won't be long before we find them again.
Wonderful elephant. As you can see, the elephant herds have kind of agglomerated into these big ones. Scott had a big one this morning, possibly the same herd now of 30, which is quite big for this area, and Brent had another big one. And you find that those herds will slowly kind of dissipate into their more normal 15, 20, and that's the kind of
Well, it sounds like James is in a bad signal area, and that's why you have been rushed back to me, but that's fine. We shouldn't take too long to get to those elephants again. We've been following a little riverbed that the road doesn't follow, so we've just looped ahead. And what they could actually be doing is heading to another waterhole where the water may be slightly fresher and purer than the waterhole that they stopped at earlier. And elephants are incredibly fussy when it comes to not only what they feed on, but also what they drink. It's not to say they won't drink muddy water if that is all that's available, but if they know that it's not too difficult to get to some fresh water, they will usually go out of their way to do that. I did just see them. They are just on the left of us, but what I'd like to do is turn the vehicle around so that we are facing them, and then they should come streaming straight past us. I wonder which pathway they shall take. Always a bit of a gamble when trying to predict an animal's movements, which is quite an important thing when on safari, because by parking the vehicle in the best spot you will get the best views. And I think this is going to work quite well. Here they come. Absolutely awesome, perfect afternoon sunlight coming through the clouds onto them now. Two kind of youngsters in the middle there, and now comes another big cow behind them. Really nice big cows in this herd. What's quite interesting, let's take a look at this one at the back quite closely, Liam. Her tusks have got really clear notches on both sides, which indicates that she's ambidextrous, and she'll use both tusks to aid in feeding when breaking off branches from trees. Usually it's a lot more lopsided and it'll be clear on one tusk but not the other. So she's obviously a talented lady. Okay, well, now we need to loop ahead one more time. They are heading straight towards this other little waterhole, and it'll be great to get there before them, so hold on everyone. We're going to have to race. Oh, surprise me, behind there. Another one above us. And here we go. Hello to Richard King, and good to have you on board with us, Rich. Rich is wondering whether elephants become more wrinkly as they become older. Those are pads that you can hear screeching as we drive along. Can't see them, but they're here somewhere. Sorry, Rich. Back to your question as to what will elephants' wrinkles do as they become older. It really does depend on the individual. There's some small calves that can sometimes be incredibly wrinkly. So it's not necessary that they do become much more wrinkly as they become older. And what we'll do now is, as they approach this waterhole, we are going to be able to take a closer look for ourselves and be able to make some calculated decisions as to what we think, because this is a herd with all different shapes and sizes. Look at the rest of them all coming through along a very well-worn pathway. The one in the front here is sampling the water. So now that the youngsters have arrived, Rich, I mean, I guess some of them do look a little bit less wrinkly than the adults, but when they're very newborn they can be incredibly wrinkly, like I said earlier. What you will certainly notice, Rich, is the temporal dents around the heads of these older cows become quite deep depressions compared to young cows or even young bulls. So just behind the eye, or above the eye and the forehead, you may see some deep dents on the older females. That will be the same with the old bulls. And depending on how she moves there, just above that little wet patch that's leaking behind her eye, that's where you'll see the first temporal dents, just above that temporal gland. And those are good indicators of age. Older elephants have those deeper depressions, and I guess that can be related to humans. As we get older, some of us will look like that. But what I can tell you, Rich, is that elephants certainly do have very wrinkly skin. That we can say across the board, big and small, incredibly textured. You'll also notice that in amongst the deep wrinkles on the skin there's a lot of dried mud, and elephants will often cover and spray themselves in mud to try and cool down, but also to help prevent parasites from having free reign over their skin. The thick mud will obviously create a preventative layer. It will also encompass the bodies of parasitic ticks in a thick muddy clay, and then when the elephant then goes and rubs against a tree, those little parasites will be peeled off. This big cow's kind of blowing water out of her trunk at such a high pressure, it's just steaming off towards us. I can't feel it though, but the wind is blowing towards us, and if she does it again, we could actually possibly feel some of that moisture in the air. There she's sampling with her little trunk again. You can see her prehensile fingertip very clearly, or you could a little bit earlier, differentiating the African elephant from the Indian elephant that lack that little fingertip. Oh, that was awesome. Oh, I can hear some more elephants trumpeting down in the riverbed where we've just been, so that's good news. It sounds like more elephants are on the way up here. And we are actually experiencing a drought at the moment, so don't be fooled by the lick of green that you see across the bushveld. It's a lot drier than it normally is, and most of the water points that would be full of water, or filling up with water at least by this time of the year, are bone dry. So it's no surprise that elephants are moving from far and wide to come and have a look. And Danielle has just mentioned how green she's noticed the bushes, and you're right, Danielle, it is. It's a beautiful injection of green. It is our summer rainfall season, well, it's supposed to be, so all of the plants have kind of activated their new shoots and growth, but we haven't got nearly as much rain as we should have. And on top of that, our last rainy season this time last year was also quite unproductive. We got about half the rain that we should have received. So it is going to be tough times. It could change, and if we keep having stormy, rainy conditions like we had this morning, it's definitely going to help the animals like the elephants or the herbivores that rely on the vegetation to survive. The predators wouldn't be hugely ill-affected by a drought. If anything, the predators may benefit from a drought because there's going to be lots of weak and easy prey. So that's just something to think about, that we are in a bit of a drought at the moment. It's nothing too serious for now, but it could get that way. I know not just here in the Sabi Sands, but throughout South Africa and even Africa, there's big effects of El Nino. So we are trying to be as water-wise as possible. Not that you should be more or less at any time of year. It is such a precious resource. But a lot of the provinces, or states, we call them provinces here in South Africa, have already installed big water restrictions. There are a lot of problems at the moment that farmers are facing. So tough times not only for the wild animals, but also for the humans. This is incredible. These elephants are all around us. Hello. That looks like the behavior of a young bull. Oh no, I'm wrong, it's a little girl. But she decided she would show us how big and tough she could be, walking up to the vehicle there, giving a little bit of a head shake. It's great to learn from the young elephants these body language signs, because they're usually coming up in an inquisitive way. They're not doing it in a serious nature. They're not meaning anything serious. But when they become bigger and stronger and maybe older and more moody, and they do shake their heads at you, at least you kind of get what they are going for. Some of you may see Peter in the other vehicle in the background. He's enjoying taking some photos. He's a wonderful photographer, and I'm sure he's loving being back in the bush. He is desperate to take you guys on safari, so don't worry, you will be getting taken around by him soon. But for now, we've got him just easing into things here, getting to grips with his camera. He's got a new lens which he's playing with. And there's also Brent and Molly, another Nat.Geo guest on that vehicle, along with William, Aubrey's tracker. So that's who's enjoying this magical sighting with us. Now, elephants can take on huge amounts of water when the going's good like this. And James has just asked how much water can they actually drink in one sitting. And we're obviously on the same wavelength, James, because as you sent me through that question, that was what was going through my mind. They could easily take on 100 liters in one sitting, and I've even seen an elephant drink out of a 20-liter bucket. It was a rehabilitated elephant who was moved out of an area where they were being harassed and maltreated. Anyway, this elephant, he was a young bull of around 20 years, but it's a big animal, even a 20-year-old elephant, so just as big as these cows, you could say. And he inhaled 20 liters of water in his trunk and then pushed it into his mouth in about 2.5 seconds flat. So an incredibly quick procedure to drink as much as, oh no ways, she nearly wet us. Can you believe it? I'm not sure if you saw that. Did you get that, Bev? Yeah, Bev's got a big smile on his face. So we were just talking about that earlier, the way that one elephant is kind of blowing steam towards us. She just went full tilt and blew a whole trunk load at us. And I guess, James, that emphasizes how useful their trunks are and how much water they can actually hold. You saw a lot of water coming out of that trunk. So yeah, easily up to 100 liters is the answer to your question though, James. They can take on huge amounts, and in cases where water is scarce, they may take on even more than that. You get some areas of Africa where elephants occur in deserts, and there they will certainly take on water in big quantities rather than relying on quick and easy drink. Oh, look at this one now. It's the perfect fountain. They are putting on a serious show for us here. I've never seen an elephant do that. That was almost that final little twist of her trunk was almost to say, you thought that was all that I could do?
I'm coming in.
Now we've got some elephants coming in here that sound quite excited and agitated. I can't see any. The one elephant in front of me is blocking the view. But let's see what happens here. It could be a little bit of argy-bargy, and thankfully that doesn't appear to be the case. There's more than enough seats around this bar so that they can all have a spot. Wasn't that awesome? Well, we've been getting all different shots so far this afternoon, and I know Vim just had you on the ear there. If we can get a look behind the ear, when she tilts her head and opens her ear up again, look closely, you'll see a network of very large arteries and veins, some probably as thick as our fingers, but she's not really giving us that option anymore. But we'll keep an eye out for that, and as soon as VM does see a good opportunity to show you the back end of an elephant's massive ear, you'll see those great veins. There we go. And those ears make up about 20% of the surface area of the elephants, and it's oh, look at this. Oh, they're really holding out their ears. You would think that these elephants can understand what I'm talking about, because they are literally doing exactly what we said. VM's now pointing across to some more elephants. I'm not sure what's going on. Looks like two youngsters having a bit of a tussle here. And there's a third one that's wanting to get involved in the action, or maybe that's the referee. The other two are perfectly sized. And what a show this is. Absolutely awesome. It's all about timing when on safari, and we've got incredibly lucky. All the time that we've spent with this herd, they've been on the move until now, where they've stopped and started putting on a variety of very awesome interactions. to the point where you could actually even see the tongue of these young ellies. Close-ups on them rubbing their eyes. I'll ask them to pan across to the right because it's quite a fitting scene here. We've got a herd of elephants just meters away from a viewing deck at the one Djuma camp here. And imagine if this was between safaris, you'd be sitting here in your private lodge and you could come out onto your viewing deck and enjoy this beautiful elephant sighting literally from your front doorstep. And this is Galago camp. It's the one of two camps here at Djuma. The other one is Vuyatela. Both wonderful. And this little waterhole, I'm sure, provides a lot of great sightings for the guests who come here. Not only between the drives in the day, but also at night. Imagine, oh, what are you guys getting up to next? But also after dark. I've heard of several times we wake up in the morning and Aubrey or Texan mention that their guests either saw a lion or leopard drinking from this very same waterhole. And Karula, the female leopard that we started the safari with this afternoon, could well come here to drink a little bit later, either here or the Djuma waterhole. Those are her two closest water points. There's some wonderful bird song this afternoon. And almost on a daily basis we are getting spoilt with wonderful sounds. All the birds are breeding, already have done their breeding, and now they're raising their chicks. Others, like the woodlands kingfisher, are only just arriving from their migration from Central Africa. So a lot going on, and we still haven't managed to actually show you a woodlands kingfisher. So that's something that I look forward to searching for. I know that James was searching for one around the Djuma waterhole, and then minutes after the safari, the Zoomy found the woodlands kingfisher sitting on a tree there. So some of you have seen one, but we haven't actually managed to find one on one of the live drives just yet. So obviously the matriarch of this herd has decided that it is now time to move on, and she's probably the one right in front. Can't be certain though. I don't think it would be a fair assumption to make that she's one of the big ladies and she's taken this decision upon herself to keep the herd going, just as she would have probably been the one to decide to come here for a drink. I love the way they kind of sample the water with their trunks like that, flopping it in and out of the water. One more sip before she goes. Oh, is she going to try and squeeze another one in? I think she might. Now, what was happening in the background, I'm not sure if it still is, once this female that's having a drink moves off, we may see another big female doing some landscaping, and she's moving some big piles of broken branches, and that's in order to get to little saplings and pieces of grass that have been protected by these fallen down branches, kind of like a natural nursery, keeping those little saplings safe from most other plants, but not the elephants, who have the ability to be able to move away the dead structure that's keeping those little plants safe. But now you're not going to be able to see that, because the female that I thought was only going to have one more sip has had 4 more sips of water, and she's blocking the view. So that's a good example of when the elephants or the animals don't agree with our plans and what we're saying. There we go. Now you might be able to start seeing the ones in the background, literally in and amongst these fallen down trees, cashing in on the nursery that was there until they came in and started moving everything around. Let's get ourselves a little bit closer to them just before they move off and try and find out what exactly is getting their attention down there.
back to us quite suddenly, and we had our radio unplugged, so you heard the dulcet tones of Tara Dales there, which of course is a rare pleasure that you very seldom get. Now, we have been at Buffelshoek Dam, and there were some hippopotami lurking. I can just tell you, Brian, sorry, I'm going to out you here. You see the falcon there? There's a falcon, everybody. It's called an Amur falcon, as far as I can tell, normally in a very large flock. You can see that that one has either irritated his friends or got lost. Anyway, pretty indistinct from that shot, and that's not, of course, Brian's fault. That is the fault of the speed at which the Amur falcon is flying, but I will show you a picture of one of the two of which he could be. And they're catching insects, and they do. I was hoping that he would circle around here. There are a whole lot of swifts and swallows that are around a bit higher up, so obviously there's some kind of insect explosion up there. But if you look here, he's one of these two birds here, and yes, believe it or not, those are just two bird species. Most likely this one or that one, which are the same. That's the Amur falcon, and what they do is they catch insects in the air, but not with their beaks. They catch them with their feet, and then they kind of bring their feet forward and put the insects into their beaks, and then they fly off and keep doing it. It's an astonishing thing to see when there is an insect emergence. And of course, like we were mentioning earlier on today, we've had all those termites coming out of the ground, and that's the kind of thing that Amur falcon is going to be catching. Anyway, I was telling you about Buffelshoek Dam, where we've been watching. For those of you who have not been watching for a while, the obvious question is why. But if you haven't been, we've been watching the progress of a little clutch of 7 Egyptian goslings, and unfortunately 3 of them have moved on to different shores in a greater light, if you like, and the rest of them are seemingly thriving. But the reason they've lost 3 goslings is not hard to see. Those parents are very neglectful at times. They disappear and they go off eating, and the little goslings are left to their own devices. So not hard for a water monitor or a bird of prey like a sparrowhawk or something like that, and even a large terrapin, a serrated hinged terrapin that lives in those big water bodies, will quite happily eat a gosling for breakfast or lunch or supper, or indeed anything in between. So we've left there now, and we're going to head out to the northeastern corner and then head down our eastern boundary and see if anything hasn't crossed. Now, yesterday we came to Buffelshoek Dam, and we're extremely privileged to find the 5 Birmingham boys, 5 almost magnificent male lions. They're not quite magnificent yet, they're still quite young, and they were with a consort, a member of the Styx Pride, a female who was seemingly disappeared. So the 5 males were found on Cheetah Plains today. Oh, Brian, just look at that. Look at the rain there. Sorry, we're just going to show you. I'm not going to point it. I'm going to ask Brian to point the camera off to the west there, and you can just get a picture of this amazingly subtle light that is falling on us. And as he zooms in, you'll be able to see the rain falling gently in the far west. There's a little bit of rain, and that I think is combining with those crepuscular rays, so the rays of sun breaking through the clouds there and shining onto the mountains and the villages that nestle in the foothills. Very lovely. And so that lioness who's with the males is MIA. We don't know where she's gone. Now, I know that the lion dynamics of the area have been particularly interesting to a number of people, and certainly to us. And we've all been fascinated by what's been going on. And the fact that she was with them and seemingly mating with one of them indicates, and she's left the rest of the pride, indicates that she's either come into estrus, but I think more likely into something called anestrus, which is the time during which a female will she'll come into a kind of estrus, but she won't ovulate, and that is to try and sort of secure a bond. Was a duiker, try and secure a bond with the new males of an area. Sorry, Brian saw a duiker just up in front of us. So that's what we think was going on there. So maybe she's returned to the pride, and that's what she's doing there. Right, the elephants are still drinking with Scott. Let's go across to him and I'll see you a bit later.
Well, happy to hear that the Birmingham Coalition have been found. Sadly, not where we can go, but at least we know where they are. Isn't this great? Some elephants have come back to drink, and I actually think that this could be the same female and calf that we saw having those last few sips before they headed off. I can't be certain, I'm not sure what you guys think. Look at how worked up they got there. Look at this is really interesting. The other female gave that calf a little bit of a push there. What was that all about? Hard to understand the personal dynamics between individuals and elephant herds, and whether these are in fact from the same herd or a different herd that has come into contact with one another in the past. It's not uncommon for herds to join up with other herds and then fragment at different stages. So can't be certain as to what's going on here. There are a few more elephants that I have also just seen that are going to be popping into our view shortly. And here they come. Isn't this a wonderful sighting? Also quite nice to be on a lower angle. And hello to Mr. Moustache, who I believe is watching in Iceland. So that's not only a unique name, but a unique place to be watching. I hope all is well in Iceland. I've never been, and hopefully I'll be able to come and visit you there one day. Now, Mr. Moustache would like to know, I'm just going to stay here actually, there are some ellies approaching from our left that we can wait for. Mr. Moustache would like to know, when elephants trumpets or make these noises, are they coming out of the end of the trunk or are they coming out of the mouth? Now, that's a great question. It actually depends on the individual frequency they are making. There will be a combination of nasal trumpets as well as vocal trumpets from the actual mouth, and then deep rumbling, which comes from, I guess, their stomach and some kind of internal organs. I think it could even be their lungs that have some impact on how they have this really insane ability to let off this deep rumble. So a combination, I think, of noises being expelled from the end of the trunk, kind of like us making a nasal noise, also vocal from a regular spot like the mouth, and some organs that can let off those loud rumbling vibrations that you can hear. Good question, Mr. Moustache. And there is a wide variety of different noises that elephants will make. And it all depends on their kind of general mood as to what noises they will make. They can make very terrifying screaming noises, elephants, and especially the youngsters who may be getting bullied by teenagers or are getting disciplined by their parents, weaned off milk, situations like that. The young elephants can really make a racket. There's a wonderful scene out to the west with that spotted cloudy horizon below what is a very big bank of clouds, but still looking promising for no rain. So I guess we're being a bit selfish. It'll be good for the safari but not good for the drought. But we were rained out this morning, so it would be terrible to be rained out both in the morning and on the afternoon safari. into a different spot, I can take this time to chat with Charlotte in Denmark, and she's interested to know a little bit about elephants and their drinking, and so is Jeff. So Charlotte would like to know something that I've gone completely blank on, which happens from time to time. Apologies, Charlotte. I have completely forgotten what you would like to know, but I do know it's got something to do with drinking. But I can answer Jeff's question. He would like to know if elephants can get sick from drinking dirty water, and not unless it's poison or toxic, Jeff. It can be very, very muddy and very, very low in level, and most elephants will be tough enough to survive drinking just about any kind of water as long as it's wet and moist. Elephants will drink it, but like I said earlier, they will be fussy when they can. So when the situation allows, oh, there's another one popping out here. Sorry, Charlotte, I have finally remembered what you would like to know, and that is why an elephant would dig next to a waterhole. Charlotte's once seen elephants digging into the sand right next to a waterhole in order to get to below the water table and then drink up the water that would start filling up in its well. And Charlotte, it's a good question, and the main reason I can think of for that is because it's trying to access more purified and clean water. By drinking out of a muddied waterhole that's been filled with various animals' dung, it's going to be a better option to dig your own well, where the water that does stream up into it will be fresh and filtered through the earth. So I'm pretty certain that's why they were trying to do that, Charlotte, simply to access purer, fresher water. And the elephants will also do that here in the Sabi Sands. They'll dig into the riverbeds in order to get to water. I've never seen them digging right next to a waterhole that was full of water in order to get to other fresh water, but I have certainly seen them doing it where they have not been able to access water. Then they start mining for it. Everybody, there are some animals that I have not seen for some time, and they are hard at work on the left hand side of our vehicle here on the ground, and with the little camera that we've got, we are going to be able to get you some awesome close-up views of a really industrious animal called the dung beetle. And how cool are these things? Oh, one's just flown off, and there's just the one left there. I actually saw one coming and landing there. Now that's how I was alerted to their presence. Not too sure what dung that is. It looks like it could be Inyala dung that they're busy feeding on. Now that looks right to me, but it has already been broken up by them. Have you still got it there, Liam?
Yes.
Is that a female hanging on to the side already of the ball of dung?
No.
Is it another one though?
Not a ball of dung.
Oh, it's an unprocessed ball of dung. Interesting. So you get lots of different types of dung beetles, everyone. Some that will transport their balls of dung quite large distances before laying an egg in them and then burying them. Others will bury them directly below, actually, where they find the dung. So they'll just create a ball that they roll up themselves and then bury it straight down. So different types, and this one seemed to be the one that was rolling it away. I'm not sure where it's got to. Let me see if I can reposition the vehicle, get another view. And sometimes what you'll see is the female actually hangs on to that ball as the male rolls her off into the sunset. And then it's usually just one egg that's laid within the ball. And then when that egg hatches, it's got a wonderful larder of food to feed on. So I can see the pile of dung. I can't see where the beetle is. We got it there, VM, against the log. You can just see the little ball of dung moving on the right hand side of the left log. You should be able to see there's a little bug buzzing around the actual dung. Just landed on it. And you'll see it moving now.
Yeah, I can't tilt down anymore.
Sorry everyone, again I'm blinded by the fact that I don't have a monitor. Is that better? And he could be starting to bury this right away. This will be awesome if we get to see this happen. You may have heard a branch breaking there. That's an elephant snacking nearby. There's also a lot of bird chorus at the moment. Now I know we don't have the best view, but it'll be interesting just to wait a little bit longer to see what happens next. Interesting that that other dung beetle came in, had a look around, but obviously didn't like this dung very much and then flew off. And we've hardly seen any. I think I've only managed to show you one so far this summer season. So happy that they are back in action, and that would have been brought about by the very recent rains. We also had a huge amount of reproductive termites emerging from some underground burrows that they live in, or termitariums that they are called, and they were leaving their burrows yesterday. Even more flying ants or reproductive termites were out today, and now the dung beetles. So a lot of insects will be waiting on the rain before they come out to play and to feed and to start breeding and getting the next cycle ready for next summer. So happy now that these insects are out and about again, because they do create a very important part of the safari experience. It's not only the big stars of the show like the elephants we've been viewing. It's incredible the strength of this dung beetle. I mean, it's moving so much earth now. Watch closely. And it's lifting up a huge amounts of soil and earth. I think I'm actually going to jump out quickly and be able to have a closer look as to what's going on. Oh, this is so cool. What's happened is he's actually decided to bury the dung underneath a little piece of buffalo dung here. But I can see from here, this is all fresh soil being pushed up, and the ball of dung is almost completely concealed already. So he's doing an incredibly quick job burying this ball of dung. I can't believe how quickly he's doing it. And he's doing it all under the ground here. So I mean, it must be a very awkward scenario for him to have to dig with a mound of dung on top of him, trying to get the soil out the way. What I'm interested to see is how long it's going to take for him to leave and then come out and possibly roll another ball of dung that he may take off and bury elsewhere. I'm not too sure how many balls of dung a dung beetle would like to bury in an average successful breeding season, but at least this guy has just about got one tucked under the earth where, oh, I think he might be emerging. I think he might be coming out. You can see the soil being pushed up kind of behind where the ball of dung is. I've got a feeling he could be coming out. Watch closely here. The ball of dung is just below the stick now, directly below the stick. We'll make sure there's no elephants creeping up on me. Now what you'll sometimes find is animals like mongooses, small carnivores with strong senses of smell will be able to actually smell these balls of dung and the little grubs living inside them, and you'll actually see them digging up little balls of dung. Oh, here he comes, here he comes. I'm pretty certain he's going to come out now. Watch closely. Somewhere here. So even though this dung beetle is very clever in burying this larder of food for its egg that it's laying, it's not a sure fix, and it's no guarantee that a predator will not find it. On a bushwalk I did not too long ago, some of you will remember, we actually managed to find a hard case of dung, and it was a perfectly round ball that understandably hardens on the outside, and the young larvae would feed on it from the inside out, and sadly before it could hatch, it got taken by, in all likelihood, a mongoose, where we saw it had dug out the little dung ball. Now I'm tempted to stay here for a bit longer, but I'm not too sure how much longer this dung beetle is actually going to be down under the ground here, excavating for this dung ball. So what we're probably going to do is send you across onto James's vehicle for a quick update on what he's up to. I am going to stay here though and keep an eye on this dung beetle, and I'll be sure to call you guys back as soon as we see any sign of it emerging from its little digging session.
Well, we have found something. It is a truck full of humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. That of course means wise man, which in this case is purely a nominal declination. Well, I suppose there might be some wisdom on the back of that car. On the very back there certainly isn't. There is old Brent Leo Smith. Three eminent persons, the eminent Peter Pretorius and and William. Okay, we'll see you later.
Hello everyone. Just a quick hazard. I'll only be on drive again in that fun seat you've got.
Yes.
Probably Saturday with Hayden when you
Okay,
arrive. So
marvelous.
now I'm going to be with our friends here, and I'm also glad for you guys to have met them and for them to have
Yes.
been on the vehicle with you a little bit. So they're going to be telling you a few stories, and having sat with you in the back of various vehicles with some of the great guys we've got out here, and probably the best comedian on wild safaris at the moment. So yeah,
Anyway.
nice to have you guys that side as well. So
Alrighty.
I get one more.
See you later.
Quickly.
Thank you so much, Peter. Yes, it's not embarrassing at all.
No.
Okay. I'm leaving now. Goodbye. Cheers, guys. Alrighty. Now, it's enough silliness for the day. Marvelous having Peter back, of course. His camera is well, it's ubiquitous, and it does take a lot of pictures of us all, which is actually termites and flying ants, and is there a difference or not? And that's from Ashley in Derby. And Ashley, there is a huge difference. Sorry, I'm just trying not to. I'm hoping we're going to see a little termite emergence as the sun comes out here, so I'll drive very slowly along. A flying ant, in the true sense of the word, is in fact a flying ant, and in many respects very similar to a flying termite. There are some beefaloes, in that they're reproductives who leave the ant colony and go off and start another colony somewhere else. A flying termite, which is what that video that Scott made is of, is just that. It's a flying termite, and sometimes they are confused. They're just sort of referred to ubiquitously, and certainly as a child I used to call them flying ants, when actually what we mean is they are flying termites. So, and they are, I mean, they're as different from each other as, what can I say? They're as different from each other as we are from the buffalo in front of us. In fact, probably even more so. So it's a wonderful example of what we call co-evolution, where two different species, two different entirely unrelated species, have evolved the same strategy for survival due to similar environmental conditions. Thank you, Ashley. Very good question, and I'm sure certainly quite enlightening to some who are not perhaps big fans of insects. So we have some buffalo bulls here, which we will observe in what is fast turning into a gloriously lit afternoon. There we go. They will be loving the fact that we've had this rain, not so much for the water, but for the fact that the grass in the last 2 days has covered the place in a kind of golden green sheen, and you can see that with the sun behind these buffalo now. And after the long winter of eating nothing but dry sort of grass, a bit like, you know what it's like? It's like us going through lean times obviously there were times when our species did go through very lean winters and we had to store food, and at the end of the season you're eating kind of a bit of dried deer meat, possibly the odd oatmeal biscuit, and that's probably about it. And it's just like that for these buffalo that have been eating dry, dusty grass for the last 3 months, and now suddenly they've got this flush of beautiful grass. And although you can't touch it or feel it where you are, the sense that light shining off it is giving you will give you an accurate representation of what it feels like. I'll pick some just now. And they'll feed along happily into the evening. It's been the temperature for this time of year now is so pleasant. It really is just absolutely perfect. You don't need a jersey. I don't think you need, Brian, you haven't even bought a warm jacket. There you have, just in case. Yeah. Brian is very terrified of the cold, but it is the most perfect temperature. And it's almost like these grazers and browsers have just kind of breathed a sigh of relief as the rains come, just like we have, It was so dry and so hot and so dusty, and now it's all green again. I tried to catch a dung beetle. Unfortunately, all I've succeeded in doing is putting him on the floor. He'll take off again shortly. I've tried that since I started in the bush. I've been trying to catch dung beetles on the wing, and that is the closest I've ever got. If the buffalo weren't here, I'd get out and show him to you. I think he thinks he's been knocked down by a predator. Anyway, we'll pick him up, send him on his way just now. I think we'll follow these chaps for a little bit longer, and then we'll head down south towards Twin Dams. I'm always fascinated to know how much the water is going to fill up the dams, and certainly Bivelshoek Dam, you would not notice that it had rained there at all. It doesn't look any different. Hey Brian?
Yeah.
I think it looks almost exactly the same. Where is my beetle friend? I think he's gone off. It was very clever of him. What I'm going to do is just pick some grass. As we go, well, here you can taste some, everybody. Just take a chew of that. There you go. Surreptitiously through Brian. New grass. And you really can taste the nutrition in it. It's amazing. Look, I wouldn't eat it, I wouldn't sprinkle it on my salad this evening, but certainly very nice. There's a pig. There's a whole lot of warthog through there that we'll try and get a view of. Now, while we're doing that, Charlotte in Denmark, you're what's the opposite of a phobe? A phile. You're an arachnophile. You enjoy spiders, clearly, and you want to know about baboon spiders and if we've seen any. Yes, there are quite a few around. Oh, don't run away. Warthog here are very skittish. Anyway, Charlotte, there are lots around. Certainly their webs are all open. Their burrows are all open now. And If we find one, I'll certainly try and remember to show you. Lots are on quarantine around where Karula was with that impala in the tree. And a baboon spider, to those who don't know, is basically the African equivalent of a tarantula. But fairly harmless. In fact, almost entirely harmless. There you go, these buffalo. And some of the most relieved animals that we have out here will be those warthogs. They really don't like the drought at all. With their short, stumpy little legs, it's difficult for them to move too far to water. So they'll be most relieved for the odd puddle that now exists in the bush here. And I just want you to listen carefully now. I don't think you'll hear it. High, high, high above us, the sound of the European bee-eater. And bloop, 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 bloop. Here they come, there they are. And I'm sure that these European bee-eaters are not eating bees at all, but emerging termites. Look at them, they're a wonderful kind of squadron. And they're designed exactly like little fighter planes. Look at them. Bloop, bloop, bloop. You can probably hear them now. Gorgeous birds, golden, greens, blues. Catching termites on the wing. It's a quite astonishing feat. We're always amazed by people that are able to catch, say, a cricket ball or a baseball going at probably 120 kilometers an hour, 100 or almost 100 miles an hour sometimes. And these birds are catching these tiny little things doing about the same speed, but in the air. Maybe not quite the same speed. Buffalo are normally a little bit more skittish than this, and I think they're so relaxed because they're so happy to be eating all of this fresh food. They really couldn't care less about us at all. I believe you've been looking at the dung beetles with Scott. They're such a rewarding thing to be looking at. Most amusing. Buffalo right here. So from the diamond capital of the world, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Antwerp, Belgium, Hilda, on the subject of dung beetles, you want to know how many eggs they lay in a season. Is it only one? Hilda, it will depend very much on the species, of course. There are over 900 species of them. Those ones that I think Scott was showing you are the dung rolling kind, and they will definitely lay more than one egg. So it will only be one egg per ball, as far as I'm aware, and then they'll make other balls throughout the season, and then they will eventually die at the end of the season, having probably buried, I don't know, say 10, or no, probably more, probably up to 20 or 30 different balls of dung. Let's roll forward. Well, Jigger doesn't roll. Jigger doesn't roll even on 180 degree slope. So aged are her bones. A road up ahead here, so I think we'll go on to that. Alright, let's go back to Scott while we move around these buffalo. Sorry, there was a tree that leapt up behind us. Very shocking experience. Let's go back to Scott. He's going to head back towards
and I'm heading down the main access road which leads us towards the 2 camps at Djuma, and then you'll see a road junction up ahead, and that's where I'm going to be turning right, and you'll see another vehicle parked up ahead there possibly, and that's where Andrew, our drone pilot extraordinaire, is commanding this device from, and Jamie and Nikki and Kirsty are also there. And now we're on the central road that runs through the quarantine clearings. There's another kind of road that runs around the circumference of it to my left, and another one to my right. There's a little herd of impala also just down to my right hand side that you may be able to get a glimpse of, although no, the drone's up there on the left. And welcome back, the drone. I wonder if VM can try and catch it quickly. It's just looping up to the west now. And wasn't it cool that that's what was taking you on safari just a few moments ago? And now VM's in the perfect spot to probably just drop down and zoom out and reveal the beautiful clouds as well as a herd of impala that we're just driving past here. And it looks like the drone is coming back for a closer look of these impala. This is going to be absolutely awesome, guys. They're very close to us, and the good thing about impala is they typically don't react negatively to drones. Certain animals will, and that is the last thing we want to do. So be aware that that is certainly not our intentions. And now you'll be able to see some wonderful visuals of this herd. And isn't this awesome? Okay, well, I'm sure you enjoyed that. And exciting stuff playing with the new toys here. We're going to make sure the drone doesn't follow us any closer though. As I mentioned, we don't want to interfere with animals, and certain animals will probably react differently to the drone compared to others. And we're guessing that Karula, a leopard, will be less welcoming of the drone and probably more tuned into the fact that it's there. So we're going to keep it behind us, out of the way, and go back to Karula, who was last lying on the right hand side of this road. She could well have moved by now, as it was over an hour ago that we last saw her. She's just so well camouflaged though that she could be lying in a different spot and we could drive straight past her quite easily. Could also be up in the tree, which is directly to our left, but I don't think she is. Oh, this is going to be great. She's elevated up on this termite mound. Absolutely fantastic. I just want to get the sun directly behind her for a little bit later on. That should work well. And as the sun begins to set, we're going to get some incredible colors popping up behind her. Oh, this is interesting. She's bought herself a snack. She's having a little picnic here on the termite mound. VM, can you see that? And you'll notice there's a strange furry shape behind her that are not the typical gold and black markings of a leopard, and that is an impala fetus that was pulled out of the stomach of the adult female impala that she has killed. This impala was probably within a week of actually being born, but sadly this one didn't make it, and she's taken it down from the tree and brought it here as a little snack. I wonder when she did that. I didn't notice that kill earlier. When we did come here, she was lying not on this termite mound, but a little bit above it or below it. And there was no sign of that kill. So maybe she went and fetched it while we were gone. Hard to be certain though. And like I said a bit earlier, there is a lot more of the adult female impala up in the kill, up in the tree. Probably about 10 to 15% of that remaining. Hello to Ravi in New York City, and good to have you on board with us. Ravi has pieced together this puzzle that's been unfolding over the last few days with the female leopard and her kill, and she would like to know if the fact that it's been cold over the last few days has helped preserve the kill and therefore it not be infested with maggots. And I think it certainly has aided to that fact exactly, Ravi. So I think you are spot on. But leopards and lions and most carnivores will feed on carcasses that are infested with maggots. It's obviously not ideal, but they don't mind feeding on it, and there'll still be portions of the carcass that have not decayed or broken down that the maggots aren't necessarily feeding on, that are still good for the leopard and or the lion. So I have seen them feeding on other animals or other carcasses before, not necessarily a rotting impala. Graham's just spotted some wildebeest down in the background, and we'll give you a quick view of them, and then we're going to hustle you across to James's vehicle, who's found another kind of a leopard.
Well, everybody, we did our level best to stay with this animal, but as you know, they are extremely fast and wily. That is the leopard tortoise that has just disappeared into some thick bush, after which we cannot follow him, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. We don't need to keep staring at the back end of a tortoise, of a chelonid going into the bush. We will go and rather look at some wildebeest, and we will, Ryan and I, no, we won't see them, we will send you to see them, and we will carry on trying to find other bits and pieces of interesting things out here. See you just now.
And who would have thought that a tortoise would be able to outrun James and his cameraman? Thankfully, this leopard over here doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And the one great thing about this little camera that we're using temporarily on this vehicle is that it does have a magical zoom. And I'm sure a lot of you are enjoying the close-ups that VM has been showing you of the various animals that we've seen already this afternoon. And it sounds like VM's now focusing on the top end, the sharp end of the leopard, where you can see her whiskers and that little tufts of ears coming out of her little satellite dishes. And you'll also notice that she's got an incredibly immaculate coat. She'll spend a lot of time grooming herself in order to keep this as pristine and as beautiful as it is. You'll probably also notice that those rosettes are moving quite heavily, and she's panting deeply, and that's because even though it's cloudy, it's still fairly warm here. And more importantly, in this case, she's got a belly that's filled of impala meat pushing up against her diaphragm, which causes her to only be able to take short, sharp breaths. And I'm hoping that little furry belly that you're looking at now has got a few tiny cubs in it. She's long overdue giving birth, and her last cub that was seen was early this year, I think in either January or February. It was sadly killed by a hyena. Tiny little cub. It was the first time we'd ever laid eyes on it, and then it got tragically killed by a hyena. But this does happen often. Leopard cubs and lion cubs, all predators' cubs really, have a very low survival rates. But what's interesting is that since she last had a confirmed cub, it's been almost a year, and it doesn't take that long for a female leopard to mate and give birth. It's a kind of 3.5 month turnaround. From losing a cub to giving birth can be as short as 3.5 months, with just a 3-month gestation period, and as soon as 2 weeks after losing a cub she could already be mating again. So not too sure what the problem is here, whether she's been picking the wrong males or whether she has lost the ability to give birth. Who knows? She's certainly not too old to. She's only 11 years old, and leopardess into their late teens have been recorded giving birth. But anything older than 20 would be considered an exceptionally old leopard, just to give you an idea of their longevity. So now, tricky to decide what to do now. I'm not sure what you guys are thinking, whether we should stay here or whether we should go and come back in 15 or 20 minutes. I certainly do not know the answer, so not too sure, but let me know what you guys think. And while we wait for you to send through your thoughts as to whether we should stay or whether we should go and come back later, we are going to send you back to James. So I look forward to hearing from you. Please help us in making this next decision.